The iron gates of Elmwood Academy loomed grandly under the morning sun, a gleaming entryway to one of the state's most prestigious schools, known for its sprawling green lawns, ivy-covered buildings, and the distinguished heritage of excellence. Elmwood was a school for the elite, where every student was expected to excel. 13-year-old Lily Chun took a deep breath as she walked through those gates for the first time, clutching her backpack tightly. She was excited but also a little nervous. Her mother, Laura Chun, had worked tirelessly to give her this opportunity. Laura was a prominent businesswoman, known for her advocacy work promoting diversity in the corporate world. She had always told Lily, "You belong anywhere you choose to be, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise." As Lily made her way through the hallways lined with polished wood and old portraits, she felt both proud and intimidated. The students around her looked polished and well-dressed, moving with an ease that came from a lifetime of privilege. Their laughter and conversations floated through the hallways, reminding her of her own shyness. Arriving at her first class, Lily slipped into a seat at the back of the room. Her teacher, Ms. Parker, stood at the front, adjusting her glasses and flipping through a stack of papers. Ms. Parker was known for her strictness, her sharp, no-nonsense demeanor that kept students in line. Her gray hair was pulled back tightly, and she wore a tailored suit that conveyed authority. She wasted no time calling roll and launching into the lesson. When Ms. Parker posed a question about the American Revolution, Lily's hand shot up eagerly. She loved history, and she had spent the weekend reading about the subject. She waited, her heart beating fast with excitement. But Ms. Parker's gaze drifted past her, landing on a blonde girl in the front row. "Rebecca, do you know the answer?" Ms. Parker asked with a warm smile, ignoring Lily's raised hand. Lily lowered her arm, feeling a pang of disappointment. Maybe Ms. Parker hadn't seen her, but when it happened again and again, she began to wonder if there was something more to it. Each time she raised her hand, Ms. Parker seemed to look right through her. Days passed, and the pattern continued. Ms. Parker acknowledged other students, often those who seemed to come from influential families. But she rarely looked at Lily. Once, during a discussion on European history, Lily raised her hand and managed to get Ms. Parker's attention. Her heart soared as she began to speak. But as soon as she completed her sentence, Ms. Parker interrupted with a dismissive, "That's enough. Thank you." Another student, a confident boy named Andrew, shared an answer that was nearly identical to hers. But Ms. Parker praised him. "Very insightful, Andrew," she said, smiling. Lily's stomach twisted as she forced herself to look down at her notebook, pretending to be unbothered. At lunchtime, she tried to sit with a group of students, hoping to make new friends, but her attempts at conversation were met with polite but dismissive smiles. She often ended up eating alone, her heart heavy with loneliness and a growing sense of isolation. The unspoken divisions at Elmwood were becoming clearer every day. The school was prestigious, but it also held an underlying current of exclusivity that made her feel out of place. Despite her mother's encouragement, Lily found herself questioning if she truly belonged here. It was during a history class presentation that things took a painful turn. Ms. Parker had assigned each student a significant historical figure to research and present. When it was Lily's turn, Ms. Parker looked at her with an odd, almost patronizing expression. "Lily, I think you should present on, well, let's do something closer to your roots. How about the Ming Dynasty?" Ms. Parker suggested, her tone dripping with condescension. Lily's cheeks burned. She had prepared a presentation on Queen Elizabeth I, a figure she admired for her strength and leadership. Gathering her courage, she raised her voice slightly. "Ms. Parker, I was hoping to present on Queen Elizabeth." Ms. Parker's eyes narrowed, her voice taking on a hard edge. "Lily, perhaps it would be best for you to stick to a subject you might find more relatable." The word stung. Lily felt as if the entire class was watching her, their eyes boring into her with curiosity, some even with mild amusement. She could feel her face turning red, a lump forming in her throat. But there was no room for argument. Miss Parker had made her decision. Lily stood at the front of the room, delivering her presentation on a topic she hadn't chosen. her voice trembling slightly as she spoke about the Ming dynasty. The subject was interesting, but her heart wasn't in it. She felt like a puppet on display, controlled and boxed into a role based on assumptions rather than her interests. When she finished, there was a smattering of applause. Ms. Parker nodded curtly, her face void of any warmth or praise. Lily returned to her seat, feeling small, defeated, and helpless. At home, Laura began to notice the changes in her daughter. Lily, who was usually bright and cheerful, now seemed withdrawn and quiet. She spent her evenings in her room, her school books spread out before her, but her gaze often drifted toward the window, her expression distant. One evening, as they sat at the dinner table, Laura decided to probe gently. "How's school going, sweetheart?" Lily hesitated, forcing a smile. "It's okay, Mom. Just a lot to adjust to." Laura wasn't convinced. She had been through enough in her own life to recognize the signs of hurt and frustration. Her own experiences with subtle and overt bias in the business world came rushing back, and she couldn't shake the feeling that Lily might be dealing with something similar. "Remember, honey," Laura said softly, "if there's anything bothering you, you can always talk to me." Lily gave a smart nod, but she remained silent. She didn't want to burden her mother with her troubles. She knew how hard her mother had worked to get her into this school, and she didn't want to seem ungrateful or weak. But each day at Elmwood seemed to chip away at her confidence a little more. A week later, Ms. Parker announced a class debate on various historical events. She assigned roles to each student, giving them perspectives to argue. When she reached Lily, her voice took on a mocking edge. "Lily, I want you to argue from the perspective of a 19th century immigrant arriving in America. I'm sure you'll have a lot of insights on that." The class erupted in quiet laughter, and Lily's cheeks flushed with embarrassment. She opened her mouth to object, but found herself frozen. Her words caught in her throat. She wanted to scream, to tell Miss Parker that she was more than a stereotype, that she deserved the same respect as every other student. When it was her turn to debate, Lily struggled to articulate her points. Ms. Parker watched her with thinly veiled amusement, interrupting with sarcastic comments about her English skills and questioning her understanding of the topic. Laughter echoed around her, and she felt herself sinking under the weight of their judgment. When the class ended, she packed her things in silence, her face burning with shame and anger. That evening, Laura found her daughter sitting on her bed, her shoulders slumped, her eyes red-rimmed from holding back tears. She sat beside her, wrapping an arm around her gently. "Lily," Laura said softly, "what's going on? I know something's wrong." Lily took a shaky breath and, finally, the words spilled out. She told her mother everything: the constant dismissals, the mocking remarks, the stereotypes. As she spoke, her voice cracked, and tears streamed down her face. Laura's heart broke, but her resolve hardened. "No one has the right to make you feel this way," she said firmly, her voice laced with anger. "We're going to make sure Ms. Parker understands that." That night, Laura stayed up late, strategizing and making calls. She reached out to her lawyer friend, who specialized in education law, and began gathering evidence of Ms. Parker's behavior. She contacted other parents, many of whom shared similar stories of their children facing prejudice. Together, they decided to confront the administration and demand action. Laura was determined to protect her daughter's dignity and ensure that no other child would endure the same discrimination. On the day of the meeting, Laura arrived at Elmwood Academy with her lawyer and a group of supportive parents. Her calm, authoritative demeanor filled the room as she presented the evidence of Ms. Parker's discrimination, backed by statements from other families. The board initially tried to deflect, defending Ms. Parker's long-standing reputation, but Laura was relentless. She warned that if the school failed to act, she would take the matter to the press. Realizing the potential scandal, the board finally agreed to a full investigation, with Ms. Parker placed on administrative leave. A week later, the school held an assembly where they publicly apologized to Lily and other affected students. They announced new policies to prevent racial discrimination and promised regular anti-bias training for faculty. As the assembly concluded, Laura felt the wave of pride. Lily, who had endured so much, held her head high, surrounded by new friends who supported her. Over time, Elmwood Academy became a more inclusive place. Lily flourished, becoming a leader in the school's diversity club, sharing her experience to help others understand the importance of respect and acceptance. Laura knew this was just the beginning, but she had shown her daughter the power of resilience and justice. Together, they had made a difference, and their actions would continue to inspire change for years to come. Word of Laura's confrontation with the school board spread quickly through the Elmwood community. Some parents were inspired, proud to see a parent stand up against discrimination, while others were uneasy, worried about the attention it might bring to the school. A few doubted the sincerity of the administration's promises, worried that it would all fade as soon as the issue was out of the spotlight. But Laura was determined not to let this issue die quietly. She began organizing meetings with other parents, especially those who had felt overlooked or whose children had experienced bias at the school. In these meetings, parents shared stories similar to Lily's, of teachers making stereotypical assumptions, of cultural misunderstandings, and of the subtle ways their children felt excluded. They felt a deep sense of solidarity and relief, knowing they weren't alone. Meanwhile, Laura's lawyer friend, Hannah, helped her draft a formal document listing the parents' concerns and demands. Their demands included not only the suspension of Ms. Parker, but also a comprehensive plan to prevent future incidents. This plan included anti-bias training, a reporting system for discrimination, and regular community meetings to discuss inclusivity. Hannah encouraged Laura to be the public face of this effort. With her experience as an advocate for diversity and her passion as a mother, Laura was the perfect leader for this movement. Laura felt both honored and apprehensive, but she knew she couldn't back down, not when so many children, including her own daughter, were relying on her. 2 weeks later, the school held a special assembly. All students, teachers, and parents were invited to attend. The board wanted to address the growing concerns in the community and reassure everyone that they were taking steps toward a more inclusive environment. Lily sat in the audience with her mother, her heart pounding. She knew this assembly had been called in response to her story and the brave testimonies of other students. She felt both nervous and proud, knowing that her experiences had sparked a movement. The head of the school board, Mr. Allen, stepped up to the podium. His voice was calm but serious as he addressed the audience. "We have heard your concerns, and we acknowledge that we need to do better. Our students deserve a safe, respectful learning environment, and we, as a school, are committed to creating that for them." As he spoke, the audience listened intently. Mr. Allen outlined a new inclusivity initiative for Elmwood, which included mandatory anti-bias training for all faculty members and the creation of a committee dedicated to reviewing reports of discrimination. To everyone's surprise, Ms. Parker was also present at the assembly. She had been placed on administrative leave, but the board had given her the opportunity to address the school. She took the stage with a somber expression. "I realize that I have made mistakes," Ms. Parker said, her voice shaking slightly. "I understand now that some of my actions and words may have been hurtful. For that, I apologize." The apology felt lukewarm to many, but it was a step forward. Laura noticed how Ms. Parker's eyes barely met the audience's, her apology more formal than heartfelt. Still, she felt a glimmer of hope, hoping that Ms. Parker's presence on stage was a sign that things were changing, even if slowly. As the new policies began to take shape, Lily started to feel a shift in the school environment. Teachers and staff were more mindful of their words and actions. Class discussions became more inclusive, and even students seemed more aware of their behavior toward each other. For Lily, this wasn't just about gaining respect in Ms. Parker's class. She wanted to help ensure no other student would ever feel the way she had felt. She joined the newly formed Diversity and Inclusion Committee, a group of students who met weekly to discuss issues of bias and ways to create a more welcoming school environment. The committee was a diverse mix of students who brought a variety of perspectives to the table. Through these meetings, Lily found her voice. She shared her experiences, using her story to help others understand the importance of treating everyone with respect. With each meeting, she felt more empowered, her confidence growing as she realized that her voice could make a difference. At home, Laura watched her daughter blossom. Lily's newfound courage made her feel prouder than she had ever been. She knew that the painful journey they had endured together had not only brought change to the school, but had also helped her daughter find strength within herself. One afternoon, a few weeks after the assembly, Miss Parker called Lily aside after class. Her expression was softer, her usual stern demeanor replaced by something that looked like genuine concern. "Lily," Miss Parker began, hesitating slightly. "I wanted to apologize again. I've been reflecting on the things I said and did, and I realize now that I let my own assumptions get in the way of seeing you for who you truly are. I hope you can forgive me." Lily looked at her teacher, surprised by the sincerity in her voice. She could see that Miss Parker was making an effort, even if it felt awkward and uncomfortable for her. "Thank you, Ms. Parker," Lily replied, her voice steady. "I appreciate that. I want to be seen for who I am, not for what people assume about me." Ms. Parker nodded, her eyes filled with a mixture of guilt and understanding. "I'll do my best to make sure that happens. Lily, I'm learning, too." Lily left the classroom feeling lighter. She knew that forgiveness wouldn't come easily, but she appreciated that Ms. Parker was willing to acknowledge her mistakes. Change, she realized, was often uncomfortable and slow, but it was possible. As the school year progressed, Elmwood's new inclusivity policies took root. Teachers attended workshops, learning to recognize their biases and challenge their assumptions. The school introduced cultural appreciation days, where students could celebrate and learn about each other's backgrounds. Conversations around diversity became a regular part of class discussions, fostering an environment where every student felt valued. Laura continued to work with the school's administration, ensuring that the policies were enforced and that the committee had a voice in school matters. Her efforts gained recognition, and she was invited to speak at local events about the importance of standing up for equality in education. For Lily, Elmwood had transformed from a place of humiliation and exclusion into a place of empowerment and growth. She became a leader in the Diversity and Inclusion Committee, mentoring younger students and helping them navigate the challenges she had faced. Her experiences had taught her resilience, and she was determined to create a better environment for those who came after her. 1 year later, Elmwood Academy was a different place. The once hidden biases and divisions had been brought to light, and the school had taken concrete steps to build a culture of respect and inclusivity. Students from diverse backgrounds now felt more welcomed and supported, and faculty members were more mindful of their impact on students. At the annual school awards ceremony, Lily was recognized for her contributions to the school community. Standing on the stage, she felt a sense of pride and accomplishment. She looked out at the audience, her mother's proud smile shining among the crowd. As she accepted her award, she spoke briefly to the audience, her voice clear and strong. "This journey has taught me that change is possible, but it takes courage, persistence, and people willing to stand up for what's right. I hope that Elmwood continues to be a place where everyone feels valued, no matter who they are or where they come from." The applause that followed was filled with warmth and admiration. Laura watched her daughter, her heart swelling with pride. She knew that this was just the beginning of Lily's journey, and she couldn't wait to see all the ways her daughter would continue to make a difference.